On May 30th of 2012, a man walked into a coffee shop he was previously kicked out of a few times. After attempting to get something to drink and then sitting down, what this man would do was absolutely sickening. This is the coffee shop massacre. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also shoveling snow. It's very cold out here! But anyway, today we're going over a not too covered case involving a guy who was falling into madness, and quickly. Ian Lee Stawicki was born on September 16th of 1971 in Santa Barbara, California, to his mother Carol and Walter Stawicki. Ian was the oldest of 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. Now, for the first couple years of Ian's life, the family lived in Santa Barbara, close to the downtown area. I'm unsure of what his heritage was, but speaking of heritage, I just want to say thank you to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. I decided to collaborate with MyHeritage for today's case, as I believe figuring out where you originate from is important. MyHeritage offers an accessible way to dive into your family's history, given the fact that they're a leading global family history and DNA service. Not only do they do DNA testing, but they also make it very easy to build your family tree and find out who you're related to. They also just so happen to cover more regions than any of the other DNA tests. MyHeritage has a great privacy policy that states they will never sell or license any of your genetic data, but using that data, they'll be able to give you an exact breakdown of where you're from using 2,114 geographic regions and 42 different ethnicities. This test is incredibly simple to use. All you have to do is just a little cheek swab. It takes about 2 minutes or so. I'm really excited about what my results could possibly be. I'm curious about where I'm from. I know I have some Italian in me, but other than that, I really don't know. While waiting for the results, MyHeritage also has this tool that can enhance, colorize, or animate old family photos. All you have to do is go to the photos portion of the MyHeritage webpage or app and hit upload photos. This photo has my whole family in it, but I blurred them out besides me and my father. And I just want to say that my father passed away in 2017, and I hope he's resting peacefully. But here I'm going to choose to animate this. I want to see what that would look like. Select a face to animate. We're going to animate mine. This is me when I was younger. So we can choose our animations. I'm going to choose the first animation, and I'm going to have me smile. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so my results have came in, and now it's time to go over them. And so it says, Joel, ready to explore your ethnicity? Let's go. Joel, you are 37.5% North and Western, or North and West European. Amazing. 35.9% Italian. I was expecting something like that. 22.2% Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. I would have never guessed. 2.5% Iberian? Wow. Spain. 1.9% Middle Eastern? What? I never would have guessed that one. Wow. And these are my full results. I'm pretty surprised. I didn't know I was going to be that Italian or Middle Eastern. Where does that come from? I'm so curious. While looking at my DNA matches, I can see I have a bunch of relatives who I don't know from all over the world. It sure would be nice if someday we could somehow connect. It's very cool that MyHeritage shows me all of this through the DNA matches. And I just want to let you know that MyHeritage has a promotion right now. Click the link in the description box or scan the QR code and use the coupon code HIGHTIME for free shipping. Thank you once again to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. One day when Ian was only a few years old, he disappeared randomly. His parents began to freak out when they couldn't find him, and they started to look everywhere. The parents were getting incredibly afraid because Ian was nowhere to be found. When all of a sudden Ian appeared with some people. These people found him wandering by himself on a beach very close to the water. Ian's father said that when they brought him back, he wasn't scared or anything, that he was just nonchalant about it. Ian, a few years later, in grade school, had an assignment that asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he stated that he wanted to be a hero or a good person in the world. Carol and Walter, the parents, eventually decided to move the entire family to Beacon Hill, a neighborhood located in Seattle, Washington. Ian, for the most part, was pretty normal, but it was said he suffered from autism and learning disorders, that he struggled to focus, read, and write. By the time Ian was in his early teens, his family would typically go camping together. One time when camping, Ian out of nowhere told everyone that they need to move their camp. His father said, "What?" And Ian then said, "Yeah." Ian's father said that Ian was very serious in this situation, that he wasn't saying it as a question, but more so a demand. So Ian's father told him that they don't need to move, and Ian said that they are moving. Ian's father was confused, and so he walked to Ian to ask him if he was okay. Ian said yeah, and that they need to go, and then they talked about things for a bit. Ian wanted to leave the entire area because he said that there were way too many people. He was non-negotiable about this entire subject, and eventually his father gave in and said, well, there is a different area that he wants to go to, so they can go check out that one instead. When Ian was in high school, one day he came home and was incredibly upset. His father said that he was having a hysterical mental breakdown, that he was slamming things, breaking things, and that he was out of control, but not in a fit of rage, in a fit of sadness. Ian's father tried to ask him what was wrong and tried to calm him down, but nothing worked. Ian's father had to bear hold him to stop him from doing what he was doing, and after 15 minutes or so, the police had to be called. Ian would then start to calm down and seemed to be okay by the time the police arrived. His father was very afraid of this and had no idea what caused this because he never actually asked. So one thing about Walter, Ian's father, is that when Ian was around 4 years old, he became very interested in guns. Walter, for some reason, had a license to sell and buy weapons wholesale and said that it was a huge hobby of his. When Ian got old enough, around high school, Walter wanted Ian to understand guns. Ian was interested in guns because of Walter, and this actually made them have a pretty good bond together. Ian began collecting weapons, just like his father, and together they'd go to ranges and shoot. Over time, Ian's interest became heavily involved with guns, learning everything about them. Inside of Ian's bedroom was multiple guns, and his father saw no issue with it because Ian seemed to be very safe with them. Now, the high schools that Ian went to were alternative, which typically help children who have issues succeeding in traditional schools. Ian would graduate and obtain a GED at 17 years old. That same year, he decided that he was going to join the army. This was while he was still in school. Ian could join the army at 17, but he needed his parents' consent, and so one day he asked them about it and told them his plans, and they decided to go through with it. His parents believed this was a good experience for him, and both of them liked that he wanted to be a hero like he once said as a child. Things seemed to be going good, and eventually Ian would be out training for the army when one day he called his father early in the morning saying sorry and crying profusely. He could barely talk. Ian said, "Dad, I didn't mean to," and that he doesn't know why he did what he did. At the time, Ian was still in training. He had passed basic training, but more still ensued. What fully happened isn't known, but Ian was basically at a party and it was very late and everyone was drinking and people were getting rowdy. For some reason, someone put a knife up to Ian's throat, and so Ian beat that guy up and put him in the hospital. Ian kept saying sorry, that he was trying to defend himself and doesn't know why he did it. I'm not sure if Ian got in trouble for this, but also during training, he suffered a head injury from a grenade. 2 years later, he would be discharged from the army, and it's unclear the exact reasoning as to why. But by the time Ian came back, he really started to be weird and do weird things. Police said Ian supposedly in the year 1989 had received charges for malicious mischief for unlawfully carrying a weapon in Seattle. This was around the time he began walking around at night in the streets wearing a green military trench coat. Ian, at the age of 19, had no job, and so he began doing some things, such as commercial fishing in Alaska and also working as a roadie for some bands. Ian's family decided to move to Ellensburg sometime in the 90s, and Ian would live with his family and also with random people. Ian was a huge fan of the Seattle punk rock scene at this time and dated a girl named Jamie. She said Ian was a little off and that he slept with a gun under his pillow, but she felt like that he'd protect her and would never hurt her. Ian's little brother said that around this time, Ian was kind of normal and would take him to concerts. Several years would go by and Ian would get worse and worse. On February 27th of 2008, Ian's girlfriend of 3 years at the time decided she was going to stop by a friend's house after work. This friend was another woman, by the way. Well, Ian had been following his girlfriend this night and became incredibly angry when he saw her go to another person's home. So Ian went back to the home I believe they shared and started destroying all of his girlfriend's stuff. Eventually, his girlfriend returned home to find him doing that, and she tried calling 911, but Ian punched her in the face. The girlfriend fell and her nose began to bleed, and Ian took her phone and this caused a fight between them. The girlfriend kept trying to get her phone back, and Ian was refusing, but eventually she got it back and got out of the house, locked herself in her van, and then called the police. Ian decided to grab one of his pistols, specifically a .45 caliber, and then left the house in his car. Not long after, the police would arrive, and they found the girlfriend. Eventually, they would find Ian hiding in some bushes near their home. It was stated that he abandoned the car up the street and went back near the home with his gun. Where the police actually found Ian, he dug a hole and buried the gun for some reason. But inside of the home, the police found a bunch of smashed things. They belonged to his girlfriend, and they were all utterly destroyed. Not only this, but furniture was all over the place. An interesting thing to note here is that Ian's girlfriend stated that Ian wasn't always like this, and that in fact, starting just a few months prior in December of 2007, Ian became very violent. He started to lose control of his feelings, and he began to break his girlfriend's things. The girlfriend continued by saying there's no pattern in his anger, and that she's afraid of him, that it's either nothing or really bad. Ian, because of this, was charged with malicious domestic violence, which was a felony charge, and he was also given a no-contact order that would prevent him from coming within 500 feet of the girlfriend. However, this wouldn't last very long at all. This is because on April 9th of 2008, Ian's girlfriend decided to recant her statements to the police and state that Ian never touched her that night, or ever, and she testified this using a signed statement that she gave to Ian's lawyer. The girlfriend said that Ian never took her phone, never prevented her from calling the police, and that she suffers from spontaneous nosebleeds, and that is what happened that night. The girlfriend said this exact statement: "I never wanted or expected Ian Stawicki to be arrested on that date because Mr. Stawicki never assaulted me, never restrained me. Any information contained in any police report to the contrary is false. Any information contained in any statement signed by to the contrary of me is false. After this statement, all the charges against Ian were dropped. Now 2 years would pass, and in March of 2010, Ian was at home with his family, and this included his younger brother. For some reason, Ian was upset, and so he attacked his younger brother and punched him multiple times. Ian was charged with a misdemeanor assault, but the charges were dropped because his mother disputed it and said that it was only a verbal confrontation. Even more time would go on, and Ian would just continue to spiral downward. Ian began hanging out at some local bars and cafes, and one of those places was called Cafe Racer. According to Google, it's a colorful espresso bar and watering hole with board games, art shows, and live music. As of June of 2024, Cafe Racer closed, but the memory of what happened there will not. Ian began to go there quite frequently though, and I believe he tried to go by the name Spider Wolf. I'm unsure why. But at Cafe Racer, there were a bunch of regulars who were musicians and also artists who were nice to Ian. Two of those men were named Drew Carycades, I believe that's how it's pronounced, aka Smootsy the Claude, and Joseph Albanese, aka Meshaguna Joe or Dexter Mantooth. These men were very awesome and in bands and pretty well known. I'll talk more about them a bit later. It's unclear exactly what was happening when Ian was going inside of the Cafe Racer, but it wasn't good. By 2012, Ian was getting incredibly mentally unstable. He was slipping away and people noticed it. In fact, everyone noticed it. His parents tried to get his concealed carry license taken away and his guns as well, but couldn't. Ian at this time was doing very weird and uneasy things. Now, sometime in late May of 2012, the regulars and bartenders at Cafe Racer noticed Ian was acting very belligerent. One night he got into an argument or fight with some musicians, and another night he was just acting wild. The bartender decided to kick him out on May 25th of 2012 for the last time, and wrote this on a piece of paper and stuck it to the monitor. May 25th. Crazy conspiracy man got kicked out again Tuesday on account of excessive rudeness. Guess what that means? Strike 3, No more crazy conspiracy man. 86. It's unclear exactly what they're talking about when they say crazy conspiracy man, though I do know that Ian would say the F word a lot and go into random babble. But Ian was a ticking time bomb that was ready to explode, and just a couple days later, he would. On May 30th of 2012, Ian Stawicki woke up, and I'm unsure if he knew that this day would be the day or not, or if he just snapped. Ian was normal this day, according to his family, and he talked to them in the morning, and his ex-girlfriend too. Ian apparently was calling his ex for several days prior, and at 9:15 a.m., he called her again and told her he wants to visit her this day using his mother's home telephone. Ian offered to bring her coffee while she was at work so they could talk, and the ex agreed to this. By about 11 a.m., the ex-girlfriend said that Ian didn't arrive yet, and so she called Ian's mother, Carol, and Carol said that Ian left at about 10:50 a.m. Ian didn't have a cell phone and didn't use social media, and so the ex-girlfriend had no idea how Ian was getting there. Typically, he would drive his mother's silver Ford F-150. While Ian's ex-girlfriend was waiting for him to arrive, Ian stopped by Cafe Racer to get some coffee. When Ian went inside, the bartender and patrons immediately recognized him, and Ian was about to be thrown out. I believe he requested some tea and was maybe told no, but I also read that he was told yes. And so Ian sat down, and the person next to him gets up. And this is when Ian pulls his gun out and immediately all hell breaks loose. The exact sequence of events isn't known, but Ian started firing indiscriminately and planned to murder everyone inside, specifically those who were defenseless and sitting down. A guy named Lawrence Adams, who was sitting next to Ian, had made a heroic act of bravery in this situation. Lawrence had a brother named Stephen Adams, who died in the World Trade Center during 9/11, and he vowed he would never hide under a table if he were to face a deadly threat. So when Ian began shooting, Lawrence grabbed a stool and threw it at him, and then picked up another stool and threw that too. Lawrence managed to help save up to at least 3 people who escaped out the door, but unfortunately 4 people would be murdered in the Cafe Racer, and Ian wasn't quite done yet. After shooting these people, he looked around for a minute, stole one of the victims' hats, and then left the scene. Police were called immediately, including by one of the victims and other people, one person who had been hiding in the bathroom. The police were dispatched at 11:02 a.m. and arrived at 11:06 to a gruesome scene after several 911 calls. Here is one of those calls.
911, what are you reporting?
I'm at Roosevelt and 59th, the Cafe Racer. There's been a shooting. Somebody came in and shot a bunch of people. I'm hiding in the bathroom.
Hold on, sir. How many
We
people?
need help right away.
Okay, just a second. Did you see the person that did it?
No, I did not. I was in the back.
Okay.
So they didn't get me.
We have people alive, barely alive here. Do you have people coming?
Yes, sir. We had a lot of people coming.
Ian left Cafe Racer though, and he must have taken his mother's truck or something to downtown Seattle. Here at about 11:30 a.m., Ian decided he was going to commit another heinous crime. A 52-year-old woman named Gloria Leonidas had just given a friend a ride to town hall when she went to park her Mercedes-Benz SUV to eventually meet back up with him. After paying to park, Gloria was on her way back to her car to put the receipt on the dashboard when Ian appeared out of nowhere. A big fight then happened between Ian and Gloria managed to get Ian to drop the gun. However, Ian overpowered her and got the gun back and sadly killed Gloria. Next, Ian stole Gloria's car and drove away. A 911 call was captured from a woman who actually witnessed this entire occurrence take place.
911, what are you reporting?
Man with gun assaulting woman on 8. Oh my God, he just shot her.
Okay,
Oh my God,
okay,
he just shot her.
okay. Are you at 1119 8th Avenue?
Yes. He's in the parking lot. He's stealing a Mercedes, a black Mercedes. He's getting in the car. He's just shot her.
After this happened, Ian, at about noon, decided to abandon the SUV in a tow-away zone. Some woman told Ian that he parked in a tow-away zone, but he soon walked away and just ignored her. Ian decided to take it upon himself to go finally visit his ex-girlfriend at this point. He showed up at her job, and the ex said that he was breathing hard, sweating, and excited. Ian told her, "Come on, we have to go right now. We have to go." The ex-girlfriend could tell that Ian was paranoid and in a crisis, and she told him she's not going with him, but she asked him where he wants to go. Ian told the ex-girlfriend that he needs to go to Fort Lewis to retire from the army. The ex-girlfriend knew that Ian was honorably discharged several years ago because of his concussion, and so she asked him if he has any military status. Ian told her that he served active duty in Panama, which I don't believe was correct. Ian then asked the ex-girlfriend if he could use her cell phone to call Fort Lewis, and so she let him, and he tried, but he didn't get through to anyone. The ex-girlfriend suggested to Ian he should take a bus to leave, and she just wanted to get him off of the property. Ian, though, was going to have his way, and so he asked the ex-girlfriend to take him to 7-Eleven. She had no idea why he wanted to go there, but she drove him there, and while in the car, Ian apologized for being an inconvenience to her, and the ex-girlfriend said he was acting pretty normally, not like he just killed a bunch of people. As these two were approaching 7-Eleven, Ian quickly changed his mind and told her that she needs to drive to a certain home. So the ex-girlfriend did this, and when they got out front of it, Ian pointed to the home and said he has 5 daughters in that house and that he needs to go inside and she needs to go with him. The ex-girlfriend at this point realized something was very wrong with Ian, and so he began to get out of the car. She accelerated as fast as she could when he did that and drove away with the door still open. The ex-girlfriend had no idea where he went and later would see him on the news. Ian, several weeks before this, decided to call a bunch of people from his past and try to make amends or get back in touch with them. One of those people was his old high school teacher he hadn't seen in over 25 years. It's unclear why, but one day he called her and talked to her husband. Ian, after getting out of his ex-girlfriend's car though, went and bought a blueberry bush, a few packets of sunflower seeds, and a thank you card. Next, I believe that he went to get a haircut, and afterwards he went and put all of this stuff on his old teacher's doorstep for some reason. After this, a few more hours would go by, and a huge manhunt was going on for Ian. Eventually, an officer would find him and trail him and try to make Ian give up from afar in his patrol car. Ian at the time was walking on the sidewalk, and with nowhere to go, he knelt down, grabbed his gun, and that was the end of Ian Stawicki. 5 innocent people murdered for absolutely zero reason at all. Now, why exactly Ian did what he did is unclear. It's very obvious that he was suffering from severe mental issues. What exactly those were, I don't know. The whole interaction with his girlfriend afterwards was super bizarre, and I have no idea why he decided to steal Gloria's car and kill her. Ian was a sick man who needed help and his guns taken away, and his family knew this. Ian's brother said that they could see this coming, and that's just absolutely terrible. I'm unsure if this entire day was planned by Ian or not, or if he just snapped. But regardless, what he did was pure evil, and it's time to mention those that were killed because of him. Joseph or Joe Vito Albanese was 52 years old and also went by Meshaguna Joe or Dexter Mantooth. Joe was originally from Arizona, but grew up with his family of New Jersey Italians, and from a pretty young age became a bass player. Joe was a leather maker who would make his own coats and backpacks. Joe was also a member of a Seattle-based folk band called God's Favorite Beefcake. Before this, he was a member of the Brains and another band called the Mighty Sphincter. Joe was a very talented guy, and I read that after being shot, he called the police, but unfortunately didn't make it. Andrew or Drew Thomas Karyakades, I believe that's how you say it, was 45 years old and also went by Schmootsy the Clod. Drew grew up in a Christian family in northern Florida, but as he got older, he abandoned that sort of life. Drew was very good at instruments, especially the ukulele, and at one point Drew even joined the circus, being a sword swallower. Drew was also in the band God's Favorite Beefcake with Joe, and I read that the two of them were best of friends. Also, apparently, Drew, a few nights before this, invited Ian over to his house to try and make him feel wanted after being kicked out of Cafe Racer. I don't know how true that is, but that just shows his character. Kimberly or Kim Lynn Layfield was 38 years old and grew up in Georgia. She graduated high school in 1992 and at some point left Georgia to pursue an acting career. Eventually, Kim found herself in Vermont, but would move to Seattle in about 2002. Kim also became a dental assistant while in Seattle, and she was described as loving, vibrant, and vivacious. Her friends and family said that she had an artsy vibe and a quirky but sometimes dark sense of humor. Kim was an actress in a sitcom that she filmed for zero pay called 35th Street Mission. She was also in a few independent films, but I'm unsure if she was paid for them. One of those was a movie called Hot Rod Girls Save the World, released in 2008. Kim was a regular at Cafe Racer along with both Drew and Joe, and that morning Kim was talking to both of them right before this happened. Kim's organs were donated after her death. Donald Largan or Largen was a 57-year-old urban planner. He was the oldest of 3 boys and an overall cool person. Donald earned a bachelor and master's degree in urban planning from the University of Washington. Donald in 1989 wrote a thesis called The Green Lake Bike Path, an evaluation of use and methods, and it was the first study that was detailed on how to use Seattle's Green Lake Trail. Donald's work was used for Seattle parks and recreation policies to maintain and improve that facility. Donald had his own consulting firm, he played the saxophone, was a regular at Cafe Racer. Donald's organs were donated after his death. Gloria Koch Leonidas was 52 years old and born in Germany, but her family came to the United States. Being raised in Dallas, Texas, Gloria had a great life and eventually graduated from Highland Park. Afterwards, Gloria became an electrician and would go on to work in commercial lighting sales. Gloria became very successful and even found herself in New York working on the relighting of the Statue of Liberty. Throughout her life, Gloria traveled all over to Europe and the Middle East, and she was actually in Germany when they tore down the Berlin Wall. Eventually, Gloria would get married to a man named Tom and go on to have a beautiful daughter. Gloria was on a healthcare foundation board and helped them raise over $1 million to fund care and save lives. Over time, her profession became her being the president of the Puget Sound chapter of the Illuminating Engineering Society. Gloria was a very good woman whose life was cut short by a deranged man for no reason at all. Rest in peace to all 5 of these people who are remembered and deeply missed by their families and fans. But anyways, thank you for watching this episode of High Time Crime. If true crime is your thing, then please like and subscribe because it's all we do. I also have an all-exclusive Patreon if you're interested in that. There's a bunch of tiers to choose from, and the third one allows for you to see a Patreon-only video, and that tier and the second one allow you to have your name at the end of each High Time Crime video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, friend. Thanks again, MyHeritage, for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to click the link in the description and use the code HIGHTIME for free shipping and an added bonus of a 30-day free trial of MyHeritage's best subscription for family history research.